we realized that you had a question about the electrical part of it. So the question that we had was, how many programs do you have in electrical?
It is one single qualification with 4 specialization fields in them. It is electronics, power, process instrumentation, and computer systems. And in that section, there's a lot of all the compulsory components. It's compulsory for all of them. And then we've got specialization field components as well. That is compulsory in that field. But that compulsory component in the field is elective or can be elective in the other courses.
Okay. So when the team comes, or when you do your submission, they will see 4 programs.
Yeah.
And it means you have to fill 4 of each FNP documents.
Are we going to fill in 4?
Yes.
Because previously we only filled in 1.
No. Now we have to fill 4 because we've got 4. Remember?
No, it is one single qualification. It is not 4 qualifications. It is one diploma in electrical engineering. It is not 4 qualifications. It is one qualification. We have 4 specialization fields in that qualification.
But will those specializations be flagged on the certificate?
No. Like the old national diploma in electrical, or a national diploma engineering electrical. That was it.
And you had 4 specializations as well?
Yeah. All the time.
What is the situation in civil? You are civil and you generally have specialization at the level of BTEC. How do you do that?
Yeah, we've got 7 BTEC, then we submit 7 reports.
That's what happened generally in BTEC.
But that is 7 qualifications that was registered. This is 1 qualification registered. And we had discussions with ECSA and we had discussions with the Department of Education, and all of them said, no, make it 1. We wanted to make it 4, but they said no, 1.
Yeah, but on this point, I think make life easy for you to avoid many questions that will come from the team, because to the team, the institution needs to show what is happening. So package them with those specializations, rather submit separate and say, there's a likelihood that the student out of the diploma in electrical engineering can come out with this specialization and this one. Separate them rather. Because if you lump them in one, accreditation might not even get finished on the 2.5 days. So rather make life easy for you to say, these are chances, even if some courses are common in the reports. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I follow what you're saying, but the moment we do that, we are applying for 4. Now one of the 4 can fail.
No.
3 can pass.
No.
Why not?
Cannot, because you state that by virtue of having specializations in one, these are not the qualifications. It's just a specialization, just to show that the likelihood that there's 1, 2, 3 under this umbrella.
Okay, we can try it. And see where we come out.
Think about it. If it was you going to have a look at something like that. Remember, they don't know your intent with your qualification or your programs. So you make it easier.
The guys who usually came for our ECSA visits, they know exactly what it's all about. The electrical guys know. Because it has been like that forever.
But I know that for the electrical guy, generally there is 3 or 4 teams.
No, it is one team consisting out of 3 or 4 members that they sit together.
We went to an accreditation recently and we had 3 teams for electrical.
Yes.
And there was electrical, power, electronic and computer systems. And each of those teams submitted a separate report.
Yeah.
Although they worked together, they submitted a separate report.
Well, we've never done it, and I've gone through, well, I started with SATTEC.
Okay.
At that stage. So you can think how many times I've gone through accreditation visits, and it's always been one visit, one document. I'll phone Charles Kumbi and just find out from him what he's suggesting, because he has been team leader for ECSA quite a lot of times with us.
The last one was just here at UNISA, and it was
but UNISA's got different qualifications. It is different qualifications registered at the department. diploma in electronic engineering, diploma in power engineering. It's different qualifications.
It's complicated. So as an employer on the outside, if somebody comes from VUT and say, I'm looking for an electronic person, and say I'm power, and I don't see on the certificate, it will become a challenge.
No, you see it immediately in the subjects that they do.
No, but remember the supplementary qualification certificate, not the academic record.
No, you don't know.
That's where the challenge is. So also put that in the back of the
But I mean, it is registered like that. We can do nothing about that. It has been approved like that, and we are presenting it like that. It is not, it went through, it's registered as SACPA, everything. Went through.
But I'm saying, like, if you think about it, like, think about somebody who's going to employ. Say, no, I'm not taking anybody from VUT because I don't know what you guys are doing. Let's think about it.
It has never been like that. Why will it all of a sudden change now?
No, I'm saying the employer. I'm talking about the employer.
Talking about the employer. The employers, we've been doing it like that forever.
Have you tracked how many students are employed, maybe?
No, well, where are students are employed?
But you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no.
Not knowing what is inside. What
No, I'm with you. I understand your question, but our employers, they are not confused because they have been doing it forever like this. If we change it now, it is going to be a change for them. All of a sudden, there's different. It has never been like this.
That's why we say the world should be civilized. Everybody must be just the mother of all professions, civil engineer. No, no confusion. The mother of all professions.
I think the main point is for all of us, and we'll make it a point to get clarity, is how best to present the information. That's the main point really. There is no question about the qualification. How best to present the information with regard to the element that I found.
And colleagues as well, to guard against something, as I spoke about hygiene yesterday, when the education team comes, please don't try to, we used to do it like that. That is how it was in 8-1-5 bonds. This is HQS different, the mindset is also different. Because you find that those that, your certain schools of this world, who are then, all of those are not part of this new system. So let's look at what we have at the moment and how things are done at the moment with the HQSF moving forward. Okay. Just to wrap up, which is the question?
Yes, should it come now?
Yeah, come on.
Okay, thanks, Prof. A couple of questions, a couple of areas of clarity, maybe for the purposes of clarity. In terms of preparing study guides, will guides, and all this information must be included in this document. As to inform a student, that this module will be covering GA, X, Y, Z, and all the instructions that come with it. So that one must be in. And I just wanted to go from point of clarity. And then also in the examination, we must indicate as part of the instructions the student that this examination or this module covers GA, X, Y, Z, and these are the conditions for it to proceed. Now, that brings us now to another point. We need then to sensitize our students with GA. We must then bring them on board. Maybe we have a workshop with all of our students to inform them that, you know what, this is the way we are assessing it. And that must start now.
Yes.
Not yesterday, not even tomorrow. That must start now. So that we tell them that this semester we're going to assess you like this, and this is what is going to be. That is another thing. And then something else was also with the will. A will I know covers GA 11 specifically.
Yes.
And also when we are preparing the will guide, we must indicate in there and inform the students that, okay, this is what we're going to do, we're going to test it. But then also sensitize the people, because remember now, will also be moderated.
Yes.
Maybe that's one thing we didn't mention, that all subjects, all modules that we are assessing the GAs, they must be externally moderated. And that also implies that the will must also be moderated, and we must also inform the people in the field when they're preparing the rubric. So the preparation of the rubric is also going to be very rigorous. That's very rigorous.
And it's just to what you're Prof, as well. Your will is at the end.
Yes.
So will is exit.
Yes.
It's exit falls under exit and modules.
Yes.
So it must be moderated.
Must be moderate.
Yeah, because it's an exit.
Yeah, not moderate, excellent.
Yeah.
Now, so those are some of the issues of clarity I wanted to bring about, and then maybe to just get from you whether is that the correct way. And besides that, we are late. Currently, we are very late.
Yeah.
So the fact that we are late, this semester we must go back and rectify our study guides, and also our examination instructions must be properly constituted. Then, as an institution, how do we move forward? Because I know when in the next 2 months, when the ECSA team comes here, that will be flagged as a deficiency. The moment we have a deficiency, then we have a problem. Yeah, so how do we move forward?
Prof?
Yeah, so here we are doing training.
Yes.
And by doing training, we are showing and explaining what the requirements are. Now, I'm not sure that we want to anticipate what will be the position of the team that will come. So if there is something that is not done correctly, I'm not sure that we are in a position yet to say exactly what they will do and how they will deal with that. So I'm prepared to reserve myself from prejudging what the team will do. So it's like we haven't heard about what you said. We are just saying what is the requirement, and let the team decide of what the situation is when they come. But you still have time to correct whatever needs to be corrected. Or at least to show that measures are put in place to correct it before the first cohort of graduates start coming out from the routine, which is when? End of the year. When are you having the first cohort?
The first cohort, they're going to for exploration learning from June. Is it June, July? July. Yes. June, July. So we expect by the end of the year they should be finished. So April next year they should be graduating.
Okay. So there is still allowing sufficient time to correct what needs to be corrected and to align it to this requirement. I think so. What I'm trying is not to preempt what the team will say and how they will assess the situation if there is things that you haven't done.
Yes, sir.
I've got a question on E13P, Table 3. There's a Table 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, presentation of evidence for, let me just get to that, sorry. Assessment of graduate attributes, BTM, spec type programs, and then you can see if I go down to Table 3.3, there's Diploma in Engineering Technology. My question is, which one of those sections should we fill in for this new diploma?
The last one, the diploma.
So it's Diploma in Engineering Technology, that section?
Yes, yeah. Otherwise, see, the E13P has got everything, so you can leave whichever is not applicable. Yes. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I just want to come back to his question regarding the will. Now, I know what it is, it's a normal subject. But in terms of the will, how are you going to monitor, or how is it going to change from the old one to the new one? You talked about moderated, it must be moderated. I know what moderation means under a normal subject. How do you intend to do it with the will?
The question that will come is that what do you have in place at the moment? What is your intent? How are you going to do it yourself? You must have something, because they are going now in July, what you have in place at the moment. Because those things should be ready. Maybe if you could have said, we have 1, 2, 3, is it aligned or not? Then we're going to be able to get.
So there is no clear cut, so you're going to look at basically what we are doing.
Yeah, but aligned.
There is no guidance.
But in terms of when you say, maybe I do not understand your question. When you say the what part of it, what are you referring to?
You made a statement that will must definitely be moderated.
Yeah, because it's a graduate attribute.
Okay, fine. Exactly what do you mean by that?
So the graduate attribute will is the module, and will address the graduate activity level, which I think is work integrated learning.
Yes.
Under work integrated learning, perhaps John, you want to get it? There is eventually some requirement, a rubric of things that need to be addressed. Now, those ones will have to be assessed by an external moderator to say, yes, the student comply with this, comply with this, comply with this, therefore it comply with the work integrated learning. Now, this needs to be an external moderator. Now, you need to work out the system and the paperwork required to have that done. So the student, and there is several models. I'm trying several ways of doing that. Without imposing so the student will spend some time in industry, and someone, a mentor or an external person, will go and tick this and make at the end with the report to say that this one has met this work integrated. That will have to be done for each student that is gone for experiential learning. Now, as I said, this one, as we said yesterday, this one is relatively, you lead because of the nature of the program that you have chosen. The VNG Tech and the VNG do not have this as a graduate attribute. So it's particular to the diploma, and you'll show the way you're going to do it.
Do you want to add to what you say was something new?
No, it's related to this.
Okay.
Yeah. Currently, when you're doing this is actually the students are actually evaluated.
When you mean currently, you mean NATED 151? When you say currently, you refer to NATED 151?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, it's not going to help us at this moment. I think let's look at what we have now, because that's why I said hygiene. Let's think of NATED 151. Let's look at what is it. It's not going to take us anywhere. The current one.
What I tried to establish is that we might have more than 3 people actually marking, where the moderator, the company would give us the report on the marks of the students. We are also marking that then we now will be having a third person as an external moderator.
Yeah, but I think let's first start here. It says demonstrate an understanding of workplace practice to solve engineering problems consistent with academic learning. So the two, I'm using that political way, they are interwoven, they are connected exclusively, mutually. So when you reach ECSA, the register task to demonstrate this outcome should be designed to connect academic learning with workplace practice. Academic learning with workplace practice. So what is simply saying, if the students fail will, it means that academic learning is also not in correct state. It starts from there. And may be performed in one or more of the following types. So you are giving how it can be done. You follow that? So the answers are here. The way you formulated that what you've currently done, you should have started by there and this to address this. How you do it something else. Remember, this is a framework that has been given. You need to work within a framework to establish the how part of doing it. In that instance, the Engineering Council cannot prescribe the how part, but you've got a framework to work with. You are within these boundaries, the students must be able to can prove this.
Yeah, but then with the current situation, would there be a finding if there is no external moderator?
I'm worried about the current. Current, are you referring to NATED 151?
Okay, let's talk the will. If we now decide the new one, we decide the company will keep the marks, right? They will actually evaluate the students, and we will evaluate the students internally, right? And that's enough for us.
Yeah.
Would then, if there is no external moderator, will there be a finding?
Yes. Because the company is not appointed as an external moderator. First, the team will look for the list of moderators that you have. The companies are not, the people in company are not featuring. The people in the companies are same as you, but as the external people. So if you are internal lecturers, they are external monitors or mentors. They are not part of, the list will come as a moderator, but these people are not featuring yet. But you use them as moderators. There's already a finding. to follow. But I think people, be careful of the marks and giving evaluation. The question that will come is that you must demonstrate, have the student achieved this outcome? I mean, this graduate achievement. The assessment is something else that comes after. They can go and do one thing forever and you mark them and they get 100. Remember we spoke about the 50%? But did they achieve the learning that they got, the academic learning, did it assist them to carry out the workplace practice? Yes, ma'am?
So if, I just want to make sure I understand correctly. We have to set up a rubric for the employer,
yes,
and then tell the employer that we want to measure these attributes, and then they can use that rubric.
Yes, thank you. And then, if you were referring to the previous, that's why it was not controlled. We never knew what. So now this one is controlled. There's a guideline for control. So in the they just go and say, they work, and then you accept what they've done. But in reality, you realize, but many of the things are missed. No way that the things that they studied, they're even ever connected to in the industry. Now in this one, that's why it is coming there at the end, after the learning has been done. In the past, you can go after S2 and go and do that. Things that are still coming in S3 and S4. That's why there was a confusion with that. With this one, is clear. Learning should be in place first, then they go into experiential learning. Yes. Did it address I'll be with you, the worries that you read? Thank you.
Just a quick one. In the context of work-driven, I mean workplace-driven activity, I mean, for instance, assume that I'm at the factory or wherever I'm attached, and there is a technical procedure, for example, dismantle or unscrew a nut, and then ABCD and sequentially reassemble. I'm looking at a moderation process as a report-driven in the context that a student who already accomplished the attachment is to submit a report which subsequently undergoes moderation. How do you introduce the component that you want to affirm that the student performed this task as required? How would I, in checking the quality assurance, how will I then verify that the student actually did the assembly as according to the technical procedures? I don't know whether my question is clear.
One of them is visitation.
Yes.
So in the previous qualification, the students got away without being visited. So in this case, it will come now into place. It becomes a must, as the institutions should monitor the process. So it's up to the institution you'll have to prove to the team when they come that you have quantified that. Is this factory also existing somewhere? That's why they were saying, if you're going to take a qualification that has got a will component, when the student registered day one, you must have already got a company that has been accredited and approved, where they're going to do experiential learning. That's why many institutions ran away from doing the diploma, they went for the B instead.
My question is, moderation is being done after the will was already undertaken.
Yeah, but you've got a rubric, isn't it? That you as the institution satisfied yourself. What is moderation? Let's go back. What is moderation? It's a remarking to check that you followed your own policy. You did not underdo the students. For instance, if you mark an exam or a test, that this is the possible proposed mark scheme. Did you follow that? Is it covered in the study guide and all of those things? Because remember, the moderator is somebody who comes afterwards. The honors are upon you as the lecturers of the institutions.
So,
you see, my problem is, like I said to the first speaker, that we normally talk in circles, like we were talking yesterday. What you have, it would have been better if you say, this is what we have, let's look at this. Now we're talking in parables, things that are not adding value, because we don't know what you have. You might find that what you're asking is already in your document. So what do you have at the moment? Can you read maybe one part in your study guide for the experiential learning or the will component? What do you have?
We've got the lecturer's guide.
Yeah, but what is in there? Can we read one now?
It is defining the outcomes that must be reached by the student.
As per
can I come forward?
Yes.
There's a lot of uncertainty about work integrated learning. especially by the people that neglected it previously. Where's your point? The people that is really worried is usually the HODs, because this was a stepchild of the education. And this is not a blame, I'm just telling you this. We wanted to go for the simulated learning there. And then the person from CHE came and she said to us, there's not a way that you're going to get away with simulated learning or work integrated learning. The student must go to industry. Must. You don't have an option. So then we decided, as a forum, we decided we're going to go for workplace-based learning. That is why we changed work integrated learning for the new qualification structure to WBL, workplace-based learning, where students are placed in a professional practice or simulated environment within a training program. So the students are now selected. Once they've done all the theoretical studies, we take the names, we hand it over to co-op. Sorry, I'm just giving the elaborate, but I'm just to get them relaxed. We take that name. And let me tell you, we are thinking of 120 students per semester. This is not true. Not, especially not for the first semester that we're going to place students. In a department like power engineering, I expect approximately 7 students. 7. To place 7 students is nothing. Right? But I must tell you, power is the most difficult one to pass. It's not the easy ones like civil. Then, what we've done already, we created the learner guides, stipulating what must be reached by the student. So we've got now a contract with the environment, with the companies. We take the students, put them in the different companies. We don't forget them. We're going to have contact with them as normal. WhatsApp, SMS, email, call. That is what do you call it? This is the way to communicate with the coordinator. Right. That coordinator is in constant, it's still happening today, constant contact with the industry. So where is the problem? With the moderation? No. Moderation and examination can take place at the same time. You don't have to be 2 weeks after, as some of the HODs understand. If Anglo-American says to the instrument students, we're going to assess you on Friday, they will contact Koos, and Koos will go there and they will be assessed and moderated at the same time. The matrices is there. So what is the worry?
Thank you. Thank you. Problem solved.
Questions?
Yes. Okay.
Yes, you have the back.
Yes, sir.
The problem is the moderator. Who's going to be the moderator? For mechanical, I see the moderator because we have a mentor and a supervisor. So normally the supervisor supervises the...
Colleagues, can you have one meeting, please?
The supervisor is normally the foreman and the mentor is the engineer. And why can the engineer not be the moderator?
If he is approved by Senate on our moderators list, no problem.
Okay, so every time a student registers at a company, you have to put him onto the moderator's list.
Yes. Yeah. So you see, you have the answers within your disposal. So this is an easy exercise the way it looks. You might have not known how. Thanks very much, sir, for the elaboration. I think maybe to add to your list, Prof, to have a workshop, apart from the graduate attribute for students, also on work integrated learning for the staff. Yeah, it will help.
Great, but there is no why it's important for us to have that graduate attribute workshop with the students. Because we might end up in a situation of, uprising of the students, Meanwhile, they don't know that it's a requirement that they must do whatever we are trying to have them do before they can proceed or they can work. Because currently, what is still in their mindset is of the past of 50%. Understand?
Need to be correct.
That must be wiped away from their mindset. So it's important that we workshop them to inform them that you might get your 70%, but if you've not met my requirements for the graduate attribute, I don't promote you. Yes. I've got to have a consequence for you not having met, and therefore you need the consequence.
So it's very important people to synthesize the students beforehand, that they don't get a shock when you get to the end. So please make it clear to the students all the time. What they need to know is the things that they are doing, why are they doing them? When is that going to be used for when? And also, especially from the service department, that are not in the same line as you, that the maths that they are doing, like the communication that they are doing, where is it going to come at it? Because if you don't tell them by that time, they might have a point to say, but I've never been warned that this is going to be part of the assessment or part of something that I'm going to use to achieve the graduate attributes. Okay, great. So we finished criterion. Yeah, just to close on this one we spoke about. Just to close, or maybe, okay, this one I need a chance, this one. Yesterday when we spoke about this, because we just touched base on that. Did it make sense what we said about the development of the graduate attributes to where they say to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. And there. So the self-study questions for criterion 3 will be, that is the teaching and learning. How does the program develop the student? And these are the questions that the team will ask. What is our teaching and learning methodology? How do our academic development program work? How do we develop the students' independent learning? How is the program coordinated? What is the role of formative assessment? How and at what stage is the student progress monitored? How do we assess and moderate assessment? How do we practice continuous improvement? How is the program reviewed? And what do we achieve against each? So that should be a self-test. As I said, once you answer these questions, the accreditation part is done halfway, even for the assessors when they come to the institution. Maybe let's start a little bit base here. I started with it so that you can now be able to answer this. So let's have a look at this. The quality teaching learning, the program must provide an effective teaching learning process towards achievement of the outcomes attributes as evidenced by the content, learning objective, expected outcomes, and method of assessment for each module of the program are defined and documented and are available to staff and students. So they will also ask for this. This should be available to the students. The information in 3.1 makes clear for each exit level outcome graduate attribute, the modules in which exit level outcome assessments takes place, the method of assessing the exit level outcome, and the level of achievement required to the students. The teaching and learning strategy and methodology designed to achieve the outcomes of the program with students who meet the stated admission criteria. And that's something that Prof touched base on yesterday, whereby your accept admission criteria that is stated that you take students who have passed with this APS score and so on and so on, it's going to be a challenge. They're also going to ask to check, are you complying with the admission requirements of what you have in your learner guide? So it might also be part of that, what the gentleman was here yesterday, about the poor throughput. It might not be the lecturers or the program, but it might be the poor underdeveloped students as well. So can you see, it's an interactive part of a new system of education at the moment. So those things should also be taken into place.
We were talking with Prof about the content of the study guide. And I think the 3.1 tells you already the kind of elements that need to be included into the study guide. And for modules that assess a particular graduate attribute, sufficient information needs to be provided as where, how, what are the consequences in that particular context. So it is expected that in the study reports that you're going to submit, Appendix 1 has got all the modules. Now, a module that assesses a particular graduate attribute, we should be able to go into that study guide and see all those information. And they need to be consistent between the study guide and what is put in the table related to the graduate attribute.
Okay, thanks, Prof. Suitable learning opportunities are provided to facilitate the acquisition of knowledge and skills specified in the program outcomes. The program is effectively coordinated. The learning process encourages independent learning, attitudes and abilities, and appropriate mix and balance between different teaching and learning methods is maintained to encourage active participation of students in the teaching and learning process. Learning process of students is appropriately monitored, and when necessary, academic development support is provided to students through structured and monitored interventions.
Okay, let's just go back. Now, when we're talking about 3.7, and this is always the biggest challenge. When you talk of learning support or academic development support being provided to the students through structured and monitored interventions. Now, if we have to, okay, here we go, student development and support department. And we show you, for instance, our reference communication. Would that be sufficient?
Yes, because it is structured intervention.
Okay.
It's also monitored.
But being monitored, that would mean progress report that we get from the student support and development.
Yes, and that the department, what are you doing with it? Because now they give you the progress report that you need to intervene. As it says, that the intervention comes at the end. How did you intervene in there?
And tutorials, for instance, those ones part of
any other means, yes. So because it will indicate that you did something about it. Okay, so what this ECSA is doing is bringing, not to use the word, those present, absent lecturers in the system to the system. So they should be present. That was always there, escaping the system. This is going to catch them. Because, and this will be a specific program, a specific module. The team will have with this module ABC, and this must be qualified, must be answered. Sometimes you find that things are in order, there's no problem, but where there are challenges, then it means somewhere the strategy and philosophy of the institution is found wanting. Great. Assessment practices and procedures provide feedback to the students at regular intervals. You need to specify those regular intervals. Students get assessment after 3 months or after a year. What is your policy saying or your strategy? An internal process including moderation ensures that all forms of summative assessment of student performance within a program are effective, fair, rigorous, and address the stated learning outcomes, objectives and outcomes. Exit level assessment is subject to external moderation, spoke about it. The teaching and learning process is monitored by an effective quality assurance process that supports continuous improvement. Students' retention and throughput rates are monitored and measures are taken to identify and address factors that adversely affect throughput for distinct groups.
I think the key point here is the moderation. So when the assessor arrives, one of the points that they like to dwell in and look at carefully is the moderation in terms of whatever policy are applicable at the university, but specifically looking at the moderation of all the graduates. So, and that is where this exercise becomes paperwork intensive, where sufficient evidence in terms of signature, ticking of graduate attributes and a system that records that the graduate attributes have been achieved and that the students are not passing through the crack is provided as means that the system is mastered by the department or by the institution.
I think one of the biggest challenges we're going to face, truth be told, is, you know, in many people's minds, exit level subjects are considered to be the S4 subjects. You understand? But then now it means, for instance, mathematics 2. If my program has mathematics 2 as the last mathematics, then that must also be external moderated.
No, but remember, in that one, you are only in the fundamentals, or the, what's the correct word to use? Those that add to the graduate attributes, you only test the knowledge. The thing is about the graduate attributes, that must be the subjects that have the graduate attribute at that exit level. That's what the challenge is. So, for instance, if communication ends, communication in its totality, it forms part of, it's a build-up that you are going to test communication in form of the report that is submitted, maybe in a module that is in the final year. So it's not necessarily communication there, the subject. It's an add-up to what is it going to do. Is it clear? Okay.
Do I understand correctly, if you go back to that yellow one that you just showed us with the arrows?
Yes.
This is a build-up.
Yeah, I'm just trying to establish.
The one with where the arrow stops. That's a exit level up or exit. Yeah, like in that one that Thermo 3.
Yes.
Thermo 3's exit level. Because of this arrows there stopping it.
And you can see, so basically it's where there's no continuation after the arrow. You see this one stops there, but there's a continuation, and there's a continuation there. Yes. Yeah, because that's the feed up to the way it is going to be. Okay, excellent. Go there. So we come now to the...
Jones? Sorry.
Yes,
my apology for coming in.
This one?
If you have a person, a qualified person with the knowledge area attached to the university or working outside the university, can we consider the person as external?
As said?
Can we consider the person as external?
No, I can answer that one. No, that is a university rule. If any person from outside is lecturing one subject, even if it's in a different faculty, you cannot use him as an external moderator.
Oh yes.
Okay. In case the person is not lecturing.
If he's not lecturing, he's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. But if he's lecturing, you're not allowed to use him.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, because he's already a staff member. He's going to start.
Part-time staff member.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think we need to make clarity here. It's not only about lecturing. So long as the person is doing business with the institution,
yes,
that's got an institutional staff number,
yes,
that person is internal.
Yeah, it's internal. Yeah. So it's over and above, like Prof. Chen is saying. As long as you've got a connection or some form of dealings with the institution, you are regarded as part of the institution.
In whichever capacity.
In whichever capacity. You don't have to be physically the institution. Yeah. It must be, you see, the idea with the external, it must be somebody who's totally not going to have conflict. So that person cannot be used twice. Yeah. It must be somebody new. Okay. On the resources and sustainability of the program must be adequately planned, resourced, led, and executed to ensure that it is sustainable over a period of accreditation. The level of selection of students is commensurate with the program's academic requirements. The number of students admitted takes into account the capacity of the program to offer good quality education to meet the professional requirements. The selection and admission of students is linked to the institution's equity and diversity plans. And now that comes a new thing that was never really looked into that. So they will ask for those diversity and equity plans that you have as an institution, and if you are compliant to that as well. This will be proven as part of the criterion form.
4.1. I wish the registry office would be here. Because we enter into unnecessary debates in saying, when we have prepared our entry requirements, as to why are you asking for a 5? Why are you asking for a 4 in And they don't know that we have to answer questions when the team comes, especially in this 4.1. I wish I was.
No. Okay. Point taken. The staff members responsible for leadership, planning and assessment at exit level are professionally and technically competent in their respective disciplines. Registration with ECSA in the appropriate professional provides the norm of professional standing. But what is important is that the competency of those people, that I think as the institution, when they appoint people, it goes through Senate, so those things are in place. If the person is registered, it's a bonus. A strategy for recruitment, development and retention of academic staff is in place and is aligned with the diversity plan of the institution. Those things should be available. The academic staff responsible for the program are suitably qualified, have sufficient relevant experience, teaching and assessment competence. And that goes back to what I said yesterday about what makes you to be a lecturer. So the institution must have something to prove that this has gone through. Some institutions have got what they call license to teach. So you go through a certain process because yes, there's no base by having a PhD or having published or being an engineer with a BA that you're a lecturer. There must be something over and above to prove that. So it's about up to the institution how that will be proven. The number of academic and support staff is sufficient for the program. Now, sufficient is up to the institution. How do you quantify that sufficiency? As we spoke yesterday about one lecturer, 90 students, another program, one lecturer, 30 students. The academic staff members have the range of specialties and abilities to teach at specialist and fundamental level that is required by the program. Staff members have research profiles relevant to the program. As you can see, this one, Schedule 2, research and research funding required for the BH programs only. But in this one as well, what this also means, if there's not a research file program, is a profile. What is it that the lecturer is responsible over and above just giving class? There must be some sort of that, there's a proof of going beyond that to prove that you are interactive with you've got the interaction with the subject. Might be attendance of courses and so on and so on. The allocation of funds and necessary resources to the school or department and appropriate utilization of these resources by the school or department where the program is located forms part of the institutional planning and quality assurance processes. So this should be integrated into that. It might not be at the departmental level, but if it's at faculty level, this should be answered to. Budgetary allocations for the program are adequate and are effectively utilized. Staffing budget and resulting packages, laboratory equipment, computing and networking, operating expenses, library facilities, and where applicable, web-based learning, so it fits in your case. Office, teaching and laboratory accommodation and equipment are adequate. Studies on the effectiveness of the program in meeting its objective are undertaken at regular intervals. These results are used to improve program design, delivery and resourcing, and for staff development and support where necessary. Where academic development programs for students are offered within and or associated with the program is designed to make students' state of preparation and progression towards the main program. Staff responsible for the academic development program are adequately qualified for students and skilled. Funding for the program is adequate. Realistic criteria applied for acceptance of students to the academic development program. The academic development program is quality assured. So this is the evidence that will be used against criterion 4. With regard to the students, cohort analysis, enrollments, dropouts, graduations, that will be in table 6 of E33. Student intake criteria distribution, table 7. Student numbers in relation to capacity. With regard to the staff, list academic staff qualification and experience, table 8. Staff indicators, table 9. Staff development, recruitment, and support staff. Resources, table 10, budget allocations, laboratories and other facilities, computing and networking facilities, surveys, and that might be applicable to the program. So I see on this one you don't have many questions because it might be something.
Just to say something with regard to that, so it might appear as is being straightforward, but more and more issues are being encountered around criterion 4 when it comes to the accreditation visit with universities, especially staff and resources. and some universities are facing a real prospect of withdrawal. Not because they didn't meet the graduate attributes, they know how to do this particular game, but because there is serious problem around the support that the institution is providing to a department or a program. Because this is what this is all about. The support that the institution provides to the viability of a particular program. So it's issue like budget, labs, vacancies in the department, using too much part-time. And there is a easy way, eventually, in the rest of the presentation, to find out that these are problems that a department or a program is facing.
Okay, let's go back to 109. Let's just 109.
That was?
No, let's show you this one. Oh, we're talking about, yes, budgetary allocation. Now that you're talking about other institutions wanting to withdraw because of the resource problem, this maybe is a question that you could take back to the ECSA as an entity that is mandated to control the quality of programs related to engineering. In terms of budget, institutions fight on their own to try to get a good size of the national cake when it comes to budget allocations. But then maybe ECSA can come in to indicate that in institutions where engineering programs are being run, then the budgetary allocation should be sufficient enough to be able to make them meet the requirements of the ECSA, or of the engineering profession, not necessarily ECSA. Because it's true, we are inundated with numbers. We are informed we must have so much and we must grow. This word growing, we must grow all the time. We must produce so many. And with the changing dynamics in academics, you find that we are suffocating at the ground. The institution, we know, also is trying its best. But now, at the level of ECSA, and being able to maybe communicate with Treasury at a given point, I don't know whether you're able to, I'm not sure. But just in flagging out, when you're making your reports, you just flag out this issue of budget allocation, and especially resource, laboratories, equipment, and space, and stuff. It's a big problem. So I don't know, that's why I said it's a quip I'm making. Maybe you could flag it somewhere, but if it's flagged outside the institution, maybe it might help. I'm not sure.
You want to technical? Okay, that's a comment.
It's a comment, yeah, that's it.
But more and more the university senior management recognize that running engineering programs are expensive. So they are not the same as the other program from other faculties. So when you have conversation as part of the accreditation visit, you meet with the VC or DVC, they will tell you that a big portion of the institutional budget are allocated to engineering, because they recognize that engineering is expensive and is special and it's got some particular requirement to meet. They are aware of that. But we take the comment eventually.
Okay, thank you, Prof. So this is E13P table 6 that has to be completed with regard to the cohort analysis. As you can see, everything has been given. The dropout percentage within 4 years and so on and so on. What I like about this is that the instructions are the instructions to complete. You have to follow that simply. And table 7, as we spoke about, critical analysis of the students' intake, admission rating, and number admitted. Yes, sir.
Table 6, we won't have filling because we haven't graduated.
Yeah, that's why I said whatever that is applicable, let that say. Yep. Okay, table 8, academic staff teaching in the program, including the service departments, name and initials, title, position, either full-time, part-time, or service, the specialty, and all of those as per the previous one. It's more or less still the same. Table 9 with regards to the key staff indicators. As you can see, everything has been given, the SLAs, number of staff with master's degrees, number of bachelor degrees, and all of those. And just complete they work themselves out. Table 10, financial resources, as we spoke about. Just to be complete.
No, in the table, mostly in I think we prefer the FTE to SLE.
Yeah, but whatever that you can present. But what you do then, you need to add an extra page to indicate you converted from that to that one, so that it can be easily understood by the team.
Both are asked.
Sorry?
Because the SLE.
Yeah, I see your predominant on SLE.
Yes. Senior lecturer equivalent, yes. But it doesn't matter, the way you present it is fine. Just that you should be able to demonstrate it clearly to the team. Remember, they will have your report before they will study it and make to understand, and when they come here, they just confirm that with the university. Okay, table 10 as the financial resources. And this will be on a follow-up on a previous visit, criterion 5, which is not a picture. And now this is the approach to evaluation. The on-site evaluation should be conducted in an open and professional way. Points of constructive criticism, comment, and commendations will be made. Verbally to head staff and report. Now, why I'm bringing this is that there's always that challenge between the head of department and the team leader in this. Everything has been laid down in here, and yet is to be followed in this way. And you can see in the report, they use the comment format when they report a comment. Advert findings must be documented and supported by evidence, thoroughly and openly examined with the head, staff, students, dean as appropriate, triangulated, not relying on a single source. So that's why one of the good pointers or people resources in the accreditation are the students. They tell the way it is. The lecturer, you interviewed them, they said, no, we had 4 or 5 assessments and what? No, we only had 1. And this lecturer only come to class on 9 days. But the periods, the timetable says to be here for 3 days. They tell the way it is. Huh?
They got extra 5 months.
Yeah, they don't know where they came from, yeah. Yes, and he refused to give back the scripts because we all got 80% in the class. Yeah, things like that. So I'm just saying be careful, because that's why it's that triangulation. It's documentation, interview with staff, interview with industry, and interview with lecturers as well. Although without the influence of the HOD as well. But those things, they normally do come out from especially from the students. Now, what I realized as well, we can say the students will tell what suits them, but at the stage they tell the truth. And you need to find within what they said, how do you coordinate that, because they're always there. Okay? Sorry. Successive requirement evaluation using documentation only before day 0. That's for the, as you can see, that is for the assessors, but we can share that with you. Look for consequences, not just symptoms. Evaluation must be completed before leaving the site. Written up as a first draft. All concerns to be raised with the head of the dean, and evidence to check as many perspectives as possible. This is again to the team, but it's going to be the interviews that come to you. Prepare questions allocated to members. As for the team members that will be coming, put staff and student at ease, thank them for their assistance. Stress importance of accreditation and how it adds value to the program. Ensure that your questions are put in clear context appropriate to the recipient. Ensure the interviewees get a chance to speak freely. Do not pass judgments, probe further. If something is still wrong, be non-committal. Do not get into unnecessary arguments. Okay. So I think this is just the report. Now this is for the reporting team from the engineering council, communicate the decisions. Okay. What Prof suggests is that we have a 5 minutes break, then when we come back, then we wrap up.
And then when we come back, we wrap up.
Okay.
Thank you.
providers. And with regard to the credit calculation, as we spoke about it yesterday, not calculated use the invested credits or the needed spreadsheet. And so what this refers to is that you find, like that's what you just said yesterday, how you did it. You still have the time before submission to also do it as per the other, and you can submit both and say, but we have done our calculation using our own invested system, and this is also a submission based on that as per the ECSA formula. Credits too low, we spoke about the credit, you spend time on them. Credits too high, multipliers unrealistic and not justified. Present attributes, no evidence, 50% mark, make it acceptable. Whether it's a too complex and difficult assessment, only assessed in one course or in all courses. Now let's talk about it. Course content in appendix 1, no present attribute to be assessed specified in the course, insufficient detail and too general. Now the question that came was, and I think it's a problematic question or a generic question, is should all the subjects assess all graduate attributes or vice versa? I'll make an example, and we're not prescribing that the graduate attributes, other institutions say, okay, they can say we assess all the graduate attributes in the integrated final year project. Find that all exit level subjects are not assessing the graduate attribute, but they fit into them. It must be shown that the knowledge of design that is there will be shown there in the final year integrated project. Is it clear? Because I think that was the worry. The capstone project, yes, that is a capstone that covers everything.
Is that acceptable? Just showing one place where everything is there.
Yeah, but then it means that project will have everything, all of those. See that yellow slide with the arrows. Then you also show that the knowledge the knowledge profile is there, that what is being taught in the subject will be assessed, all those great attributes in there. So the feeder will have to be shown that from the mathematical sciences, engineering sciences, design sciences that goes there will be proven. It's also one of the methods. Remember, it's about justification to show that all graduate attributes have been achieved and are assessed somehow. Yeah, it's not prescribed how you do it. That's why it's much better, this one, because there are many ways of doing it. And we were talking to Prof about this, that this is a developmental stage. Remember, please do not be afraid. If you get the deficiencies, luckily you'll know where you went wrong, instead of hiding things where you can be assisted moving forward. This is still the first ever first ever qualification, the program evaluation that we have seen in the country, or the new qualification system that is in the country. It's going to take some years. It took the BH program, they're in the 16th year now, almost 10 plus years to get it correct, to be confident. There are still some challenges there, but at least they know it. It might take even 10 years for us, 5 years, to really know what this peculiar animal is, or what does it mean. So don't be afraid. But what we are asking is please be open in the team so that you can be assisted. Once this is run, we'll be running with it much easier. Still at the developmental stage, we are still all learning about it. There will be cracks there and there. At this stage, in a provisional, when there's a deficiency, does not mean that the program will be withdrawn. Rather discuss those things with the team so that you can be assisted. Thank you. Yes, sir?
Yes, sir. In this, not suggesting that I see a certain conundrum. This is that if I look at we have last year said that all the hours are going to
capstone project.
Then we only have one. So we only have one exit module.
We only have
one exit module.
Maybe I'm missing the point. Maybe it's about graduate attributes, not about exit module.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, if you show that you maybe fit in, or maybe it doesn't go with that expression.
Yeah. Or maybe rephrase your question. That's what I'm saying. Are the graduate attributes, 11 of them, assessed? Where, how, in one doesn't matter. Yes. That's what the team is looking for.
Yes, but what we say is, maybe in the slide that you showed us where there was the yellow and arrow.
Yes.
Then we would have to show somehow that this model is true.
Yeah. Remember the capstone project in there you must prove there where the development things are coming, that this is where they are ending, and this is where these things are assessed. So it's not going to be.
I think he's combining two aspects here.
Yeah.
He should not take that GA aspect with an arrow.
Yes.
They don't link it.
No. Yeah. Is it clear now? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. See, we also learned when we were here because you are seasoned lecturers as well. You've been here, so you know the system much better. Okay?
The challenge with the capstone project is the transfer students. Students going out, students coming in. They have a problem. Because if you indicated that from day one, because the capstone project is from day one, you inform the student that by the end of your 5th semester, you shall have you shall have reached all the organizational attributes in this form, and these are the assessment methods for us to show that for each semester, of course, you'll be ticking, saying, okay, here you met, finally you got all your capstone. But now, if the student comes from another institution, they've got different ways of doing it. So how does the student gel in? If your student goes out of this institution too, then there's a problem. That's one of the biggest challenges of capstone. Because the institutions have tried the capstone. If you look around, you talk around with other people, they tell yes, we've tried it, but the challenge is, the mobility of our students. That's a big problem. Or if a student drops out one semester, then has to come back, and it's a bit of a challenge.
Can I make a comment? Yes. Because we are working in silos, all the universities of technology are working in silos. The movement of students is limited. There is no movement of students anymore. Students studying in Cape Town can't move to GMD or whatever. They cannot. If they move there, they've got to start afresh. Because the whole structure was developed, that the universities develop their own qualification for their own industry. And that is a big no-no according to industry. But lately the money didn't worry about industry. So I'm just telling you that we are the only university in South Africa doing it for engineering, work integrated learning. We present a 360 credit qualification. All the rest ran away for it except for Cape Town. Cape Town's electrical department, they offer work integrated learning, but also not on the same scale as we. Okay, so this is just general information.
Yeah, it's true, but there's certain challenges that are there, but that is why the HQSF was made like that, to give more autonomy to the institutions. Like you said, it was decided like that for us. There's nothing we can do. For us, it's here to monitor the quality assurance thereof. Okay, let's say the pitfalls for the assessors. Now, this, I'm sure you know this for the assessors, but I want to share it with you because we also picked that out. Some of you might also be assessors. Not studying the documentation thoroughly that has been submitted by the institution. Not sticking to the policy process and procedures by the book. Inventing new decisions, looking at symptoms and not consequences. Not leaving own value at home, deciding and getting into argument. Not triangulating and jumping into conclusions. Not taking a collegial approach. Not sticking to the problem, and not team spirit, and poor reports that are not consistent with the template. Same equally so when you build a template, the team must also use the template as well. So things are what the pitfalls are of the assessors when they come to the institution. I'm sharing them with you to be open because we'll be talking. So also to assist them is to ask them as well if they follow the way by the procedures, the processes, and then doing the work by the book. I think we reached the end.
Just to go back to the previous slide. So this common program by the provider is perhaps one of the most important slides, just to make sure at some stage that we go through this one, to make sure that everything is okay. And when it comes to the credit too low, eventually the assessors will diligently look at the credit and make sure that where you're claiming some knowledge area is correct. So they might start subtracting credit here and there because they are not convinced that you presenting a module and you claiming natural science or work integrated learning is correct. They don't see any evidence there. Then they subtract, and then in the end, your credit are too low. Then the other one, the credit too high, I don't anticipate that much for the diploma. Remember the BH Tech is 420 and BH is 560. So you come from 360, there is still quite a bit of credit within an academic year where the students are still able to sleep and to wake up and to pass and to do all other kind of things. But only assessing one course or assessing all courses. So I think last time, yesterday, we were talking the fact that it is a teamwork to decide where you want to assess the graduate achievement. There is no need to assess them in all the modules, and some module might be of the final year, and they do not assess a graduate achievement. Because I was speaking with some of the colleagues, and they were under the impression that they need to have necessarily a graduate attribute assessed in their particular module. No, you can have a module where there is no graduate attribute assessed, and you are not concerned in show. You are probably to show how it developed towards a graduate attribute, but you are not concerned to show where, how, and show the rubrics and all those that, and that should not be included in your module.
Yes, sir. I think I've got a couple of concerns for clarity purposes. Using the word consent is not the exact type of consent. When we say credit too low or too high, I seem really confused because in the process of developing the program to be registered by a CHD, we have already done the credit calculation. So how will one determine now at a later stage to say that the credit was too low and why it was too low? And I don't seem to get that.
Can I assist on that? Yeah. It is clear, the team will ask, that 14 credit that you have proved to us is 14. Submission is something I can write 100 million, but I must prove that is correct, what I'm doing at current on campus. So it's up to you to prove that what you submitted, approved, you are doing. You find when people calculate, it's no longer 14, it's 9. Where's the remaining 6 that you submitted to CH? So submitting there's something else. You just do paperwork submit. Real proof come in the real world. You must have to prove that what you submitted that you are doing. You get it? Yes. They will ask you then that prove to us that in this subject it says 28 credits. Where are the 28 credits? How do you achieve the 28 credits? That to make sure that when the student finishes, they achieve the 28 credits.
Equally, secondly, for the graduate attributes, when we were submitting our presentations to CHE, we used to call them years of and then after that we changed to graduate attributes. That is what we have been doing by trying to work collectively in order to look at how those graduate attributes are achieved. But during the submission, we also mentioned against each subject what were, intended areas for intended graduate attributes. Are we supposed to change that significantly now? Because that might seem to be misrepresentation of another.
No, don't worry about it. At the moment, the EO2PE, which is the BSc or Bachelor of Engineering standard, still refers to exit level outcomes. It is a CHE that requested that all the documents must use one language, graduate attributes. So if you've got exit level outcomes, as you can see on the slide, it was left purposefully because for BH Tech and the diploma to have exit level outcomes as well, and because others are still using exit level outcomes. There's nothing wrong. Remember, it's more about the content. The content remains the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is that, for example, mechanics one already had graduate attributes because of issues that were presented that those were the graduate attributes. Now, when we have to sit again now, as a team, we decide that are we not going to make this presented?
No, what I'm saying is, if I go back, first, let me show you. You see this one? You'll find, see, it says exit level outcome. Place number graduate attribute, but this is still the same.
Yeah, but I think, my understanding of your question, correct me if I'm wrong, is to say you had submitted something to CHE with provision of some graduate attributes assessing particular subject. Now, is there scope for changing, or it can be different at the visit? Am I correct?
But what should be different? Is it from exit level outcome? Anyway, this is the PH one.
So you had said, for instance, that mechanics 1 will address graduate attribute 3 and 4. And then at the visit, it happened that mechanics 1 go and now start assessing graduate 5. Is that the question?
Are we allowed to do all those other questions?
My understanding is that when the assessors come, they will be concerned in making sure that the graduate attributes are assessed somewhere. And they will not have your CHE submission to compare and see if they've been changing. But your question is quite interesting because it brings to the fact that the graduate attribute can change as per where they are being assessed with time. My understanding is that it's not something that is immutable, cannot change. So all the subjects, for instance, in engineering address somehow graduate attribute 1. Problem solving is addressed everywhere. You decide, perhaps you decide strategically and you identify a subject where that particular graduate attribute will be assessed. There will be the necessary evidence and paperwork to show that the students are assessed for this graduate attribute in module A or module B. The following year or after a cycle, you can decide that it goes to another. That's totally the business of the department. As long as that particular graduate attribute is finally assessed somewhere.
As long as all the 11.
Yes. All the 11 graduate attributes are assessed. Yeah. That's the business.
Yeah, in addition to that, you see, I'm trying to ask myself, and of course, it's a collective process, where one of the concerns is that 50% marks made as acceptable. And during the facilitation yesterday, I know that it was said that 50% does not actually translate into acceptable marks. And while meditating, I felt that possibly if a subject intention is to get the specific graduate attribute, then the 50% will of course have achieved that graduate attribute. It might solve a lot of problems going backward, and what would be an advice for exam perception?
But maybe let's qualify the 50%. What does that mean? 50% of what? But passing what?
The test.
Yeah. Now you might have 3 questions. The graduate attribute is only in question 1. Nobody answers that, they answer the other ones. When the team comes in, but the graduate attribute, when we read, is there, not here, they pass 50%. That's what I'm saying. 50% of what? Let's qualify it.
You see, in the question that will be heavy, or in the test, you have 3 questions, for example. Now, in there, you must also indicate where is the graduate attribute assessed. Because sometimes, and you have seen this, you find it's only in one question, the rest don't have. And you ask, why waste the students' time? Because other questions don't have anything to do with the graduate attribute. And that's what they passed. They did not answer the other one. That's what I'm saying. 50% of what? The whole test, or per question, where the graduate attributes are there.
But in that case, it's not like possible for if there are 3 questions, those 3 questions should be designed in such a way that they are testing the graduate attributes.
Well, we have seen it's not like we've got an example.
That's one way of doing it. That's one way of doing it, and eventually you're gonna have to explain that to the assessor. But that's one way of doing it. There's no problem with it. The way you say that each question mix all the graduate attributes, so that when you arrive to a final mark of 50%, it means that he has addressed the different components of that graduate attribute. That's one way of doing it. That is why there is no prescription in how you assess this particular graduate attribute. Now, it will be therefore interesting when it comes to the how, that you explain exactly what you just said now. That in my case, each question mix in equal proportion the various components of this particular graduate attribute, so that I'm satisfied that if someone has got a 50% in the overall test, he would have mixed all those things. So that's one way of doing it. And your moderator also is okay with that way, and then eventually the assessor will look at it. As we were saying, there is no way it can be prescribed, but you need to justify and explain exactly what you are doing.
You remember this? In the 4 compulsory final year courses, and all permitted elected, 3 of which must be taken by a student. And then so it's up to you as the institution, but you must be able to, if you've got 5 of them in that question, you should be able to prove that all 5 of them have gone through the process of being assessed and that the student has achieved it. It's up to the institution how you do it. The question will be, prove that all the 11 graduate attributes have been assessed and have been achieved by the student. Okay. Yes, sir?
Oh, yes. My question is mostly a concern more than anything else. I understand how the graduate attributes work or function according to the way ECSA prescribes it to us. Now, my concern is how do we get a buy-in from students? Because these students, they come straight from high school, they know what 50 is a pass and so how would you as ECSA advise that we get a buy-in from students based on these graduate attributes?
The tail must not wag the dog. You are in charge. You cannot be told by the students.
I know that we are not being mandated by the students, but they are bigger stakeholders.
Yeah, but you explain.
What I'm saying is that what I'm trying to propose is that this must be fixed from high school.
No. In your study guide, they come here from high school to tertiary institution. Here, this is how it is done. But now it also goes back to, if your learner guides or lecturer guides are poorly planned, you have that result one thing. If it is clear day one, they will be able to learn and know, oh, it means I must get 50 there. Simple, no problem. But the moment if your documentation is not explained, and we saw situations like that whereby the students had a point because nothing was explained to say what is that saying in the documentation. And the easy way to do that, if I check, maybe most of us English is not our first language or home language, then you get an English person to read that, critique that, and assist you that an English word in this case means this and so on and so on. But the moment you let the students take over, they will even tell you, we want to have class on Sunday afternoon. Then you'll have to come and give class because you are in charge. You must show that you are in charge.
They'll learn along the way. Yes, sir.
I just want to take clarification on something. So, most of the time you've been saying that if you ask questions, you don't include those graduate questions in the question. So why are you wasting student time?
Yes.
So what are you saying is that so if I put 3 questions and only one question is covering the graduate question, so how much just have graduate with one question? That is a waste of student time.
No, that's what we are saying. We are saying in your assessment, okay, let's remove the question part. In your assessment, you must be able to prove that you were assessing the graduate attributes, in other words, the knowledge profile. Whether you have a question or no question is irrelevant. Because I'm trying to avoid that. The exam will say we must have only 1 question, not 5 questions. So let's take assessment is not based on questions, number. You can have a question, you can have a question. It's irrelevant. You can have questions. You follow? So the bottom line is you must be able to prove, and which makes sense. Why would you ask students things that is not adding value for assessment or to their achievement of something? That's what I'm saying. In the maths, in the study subject, they are testing knowledge profile because they build up towards the graduate attributes. They must be able to show that they are testing that knowledge profile as is indicated as per the criterion 1. Now, when you get to the graduate attributes, you must be able to show where are they assessed, as the part here. Where is the outcome assessed? How is it assessed? And all of these that follows. Yes, sir?
Just clarify something. So if my module is not going to test any graduate questions, so I must carry on with my test just like that.
No, but what are you testing in there? Knowledge profile. It must conform to this. Then you are testing knowledge profile, not the graduate attribute. You cannot just test the student for no reason. What are you testing them for? You must be accountable. Yes. Declare. Great. Yes, sir.
Just rolling up on what my colleague was asking. I think the 50% mark considered as acceptable. He was just looking for that. And I think maybe I should ask from their own experience. How other universities for institutions in addressing issues, especially the students who have 50%, and we see that they do not get the marks for the graduate attributes and for others in their then they can pass that on.
You're asking how other people are doing it. How other universities have dealt with that.
Whether they have come across that and if they came across it, how they dealt with it. Because the typical things we are going to test is when the student is teaching, we start debating with the student and the SRC, they always come up with ways that
look, this program is new, and it's new in a lot of universities of technology, and they are all battling with the same idea or the same question. The fact that there is graduate attribute that you need to pass, and there is the overall assessment, as we knew it traditionally. But as he just said, it is being done in science program, so the traditional DH have managed to implement that, and the culture is there, and there is a buy-in from the student. It's actually sometimes very edifying that you go and you interview students and they start talking to you about all these graduate attributes. So they know about how it works, they know that they need to pass them, they know exactly where it is assessed, they know what they need to do, etc., etc., they know the consequences. So let's give it some time. Our student will be used to the concept. And I personally don't anticipate that they will protest because of that. No, it's gonna go right. It's still new for most of us. It will be new for the student, but I'm sure the culture will be entrenched at some stage, and it will be normal business in engineering, at least, as we are trying to have it.
Thanks, Prof. Colleagues, we have reached the end of our business that we came here to do at the University of Technology.
There is a question there.
Yes, can I just ask something? So what Prof is talking about is when the coach mentioned, so he gave 5 questions, and only one has addressed the graduate measurement. And the student decides once a metaphor gets it, address it. So it needs to be done in a way that the graduate measurement is distributed among the questions so that the student can at least, there's no question that is going to be about it.
Again, it's a way of doing it. That's up to you. That's up to you. That's bring why with time eventually each institution, but in fact each lecturer will get the gist of this whole business and will find what's worked well and what is the most justifiable way of doing this business of graduate attributes. For instance, they will decide, no, I want to only have 2 graduate attributes, then I deal with them better. Or I only want to have only 1 graduate attribute, and I deal with it better because I can bring it in various questions. That's again something you are able to do. The good thing is that eventually, as we're discussing, you start finding ways that you can address this business of graduate attributes without being prescribed a specific method or methodology of doing that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I heard that you're saying you're finishing off. I just want to ask you, I know that it's your intellectual property, the presentation. Can we...
We are just doing this on behalf of the Engineering Consultancy. They are the custodians.
Yeah, we'll send it to the team and leave them.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. People, I just wanted to check something. Thank you very much for being such a good audience. I normally here we talk of, and I think I never use the word University of Technology. If I check with you, how many are there in the country? 6. What's the 7th one? It's not the University of Technology. That's where I'm coming. When you say that you are excluding the comprehensive universities, that is Nelson Mandela, UNISA, Walter Sisulu, and University of Johannesburg. So I always tell people, let's get away from this way. Let's hygiene it, let's clean it. Rather say they take the engineering technology providers. It's much better. The moment you say that, you exclude that for comprehensive. Because they offer both engineering science and the engineering technology. So in total, the universities that offer, there are 10 in the country that are offering the engineering technology programs. You know what I said? I said the institutions that offer this, all universities. You can just distinguish them this year. University of Technology, there are 6, and there are 4 of the comprehensives. And I got it against, and I read even from other people from ECSA said, oh, then we are excluding University of Johannesburg because oh, that they realize it. So let's just get the terminology right or correct or move better. Okay, anyway, Prof.
I think it's the end, but it will be really interesting to see how, as an institution and various programs, you're going to deal with this particular outcome-based accreditation, because you have decided to go for the diploma, and as we say, you are the first one in line to have this provisional accreditation for the diploma. So you want to set the base, and I'm sure on what will come out from you, even ECSA will learn a little bit of how to deal with this particular graduate attribute 11, which is the will. How you're gonna spread it across the knowledge area, and how you're gonna deal with demonstrating the graduate attribute 11. It's gonna be new. There is any preceding experience around that. And we actually wanted to present this training, and along the line we have ourselves learned quite a bit because there have been quite of curved questions, things that we didn't anticipate that has come out, which will give us thought for reflection as we go forward. The last thing is, just to wish you all the best. I know it's any accreditation is generally very strenuous time, and I suppose this one in particular will be a little bit more strenuous than the previous accreditation. But as John said, it is a developmental process. So you are actually to welcome deficiency. If there isn't any deficiency, then probably the assessment team has not done its work properly. So if deficiency comes, you welcome them to say, yeah, let me have this deficiency now, so that when the team comes in 2021 for the regular accreditation, they've been addressed properly. So if you have deficiency, shouldn't be any problem at all. I would have liked to say that in the presence of the dean, because I know some head of department, even being one of them, we don't want to hear about deficiency. But in this case, deficiency has to be welcome to come your way, so that you are allowed to improve it. With that, I wish the institution all the best, and I thank you for attending this workshop. All the best. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, the ECSA team.